Hi everyone, I'm Ravi Kapur. I'm joined today by Dr. Ratan Sharda, who is a foremost expert on the RSS, an organization that gets some notoriety in the United States, and we'll get into what that means in the Western world. The RSS obviously is very well known in India, but for those of us that haven't experienced it, first and foremost, it's hard to comprehend the magnitude of the organization, and part of the reason we want to sit down and talk to you because you've written 7 books. You did a PhD on the RSS. You've been in the organization. Now you're on the outside. Explain to us what is the RSS and why does it cause so much controversy for folks looking at the vast infrastructure? Why does it cause so much concern?
Thanks Ravi for inviting me for your talk. See, RSS was started in India in 1925. The founder of the RSS, Dr. Hedgewar, was a physician who never practiced and gave all his time to the nation, right, first with the revolutionaries, then with Congress party, and having witnessed all that, having gone to jail twice, and saw that basically the problem lies with the Hindu society. Hindu society is divided on caste lines, on language, on parochialism, regionalism, different sects and sampradayas. So he felt that unless Hindus unite and they have some pride in their nation, in their culture and history, they will fail again, because they have failed many times because of only this reason, that they were the most prosperous and most principled dharmic civilization in the world. So that made him start RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or National Volunteers Corps. So idea was simple: get people together, get them into feeling of brotherhood, then reach out to people, explain to them that we should not fall into these traps of divisive thinking, and slowly built an organization. And the oath at that time was, I will strive hard to gain independence for this Hindu nation, which was changed after independence. So from that grounding, starting from that place with just teenage boys, 14, 15 teenage boys, slowly RSS grew into a huge organization with about 100,000 branches all over India, and also many other manifestations, many other organizations, because any RSS volunteer can start any organization. So many organizations came out of RSS because of this inspiration. So you had Bharatiya Jana Sangh, which is a political party, then you have ABB, which is a student organization, you have BMS, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, which is a labor organization. All of them are number one in their own field. And there is Vishwa Hindu Parishad, there is Vanvasi Kalyana Ashram. Idea is to serve every section of the society, reach out to every section of the society. So when you work thinking beyond yourself. So starting point of RSS was that I will give time beyond my own selfish interests. That is the starting point. So the entire stress is they give you time to the society, you think unselfishly, and when you work for the society, work out of pocket, don't expect any returns. This in short I can say how it grew.
So 1925 it gets started, India gets independent in 1947. What kind of impact, what kind of role did the RSS and its members have in that 20-year span, as obviously there was this big movement towards freedom?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that RSS was very young at that time, as you know, and it is a persons building organization. It is not into propaganda, it is not into just talking and giving lectures, it is into creating people with strong character, with strong national ambitions and patriotism. So they were doing that work, and in 1942 there was Quit India movement. At that time RSS had very fast growth, but it was limited to few pockets. So it was said that those who want to work for a Quit India movement, they can go and do it. So there was very good participation as RSS was active, which means it was basically around Vidarbha, which is Nagpur area, where Swayamsevak in fact got killed by the police bullet. One got punishment by hanging, which was said later by some leaders of Hindu Mahasabha. And there were hundreds who went to jail. They went to jail in 1930 also with Dr. Hedgewar. And then there was in Sindh there were also very big action, and one of the boys was hanged to death, Hemo Kalani. And there were other deaths. Two Swayamsevaks died in Patna in police firing. So there are a lot of such stories. Then biggest thing was they were able to give support to people who went underground after 1942 Quit India movement failed. They fought for their cases, and that is why participated at that time. Then more importantly, after the partition was declared, only people outside the military and the police were RSS volunteers who were going to save Hindus and Sikhs on the Pakistan side. They worked very hard. I have a list of handwritten document which gives the name of 33 such volunteers who died fighting the Muslim League goons. And apart from that, they were working there, saving women, saving men, volunteering. And there are many references to that. I have quoted that even in Sindh, there was a batch of 12 people left behind in Sindh to reach out and see that everybody comes out safe from there. And RSS chief at that time, Guruji, was in Pakistan region just 1 week before 15th August 1947. And then of course they also fought in Kashmir when the Pakistani army and other guys of tribals came, and many people lost their lives at that time. They helped build bridges, they helped build roads, and they helped direct the army because they knew the area. So in short, I can say this is what the role was. And next role was to get Goa liberated, which was under Portuguese even till 1964-65. So there was agitation where 3,000 volunteers went to the Satyagraha. One person died with police firing, many were injured. They were given complete support by the local RSS people across the route when they came to Goa. So then there was Dadra Nagar Haveli, which was actually liberated by RSS people from the Portuguese and handed over to Indian government. So this has been role with the during the independence struggle.
So this is where I think when in the Western context the RSS is brought up, the people that are clearly opposed to the RSS as an organization.
You also asked me why it is being
right. Because well, the term that's used often, and that's why I was curious, is like paramilitary. That is a term that folks who are critical of the Indian government today and of the RSS, they use this term to talk about the organization. They even allude to Hitler and Nazis and fascism. So can you discuss that part of the criticism? Because I think that's one of the things that I've noticed in recent years when you use terms like Hindutva. People are trying to ascribe that term as a foreign word. Much like if the Muslim community gets ascribed Sharia law. And I remember hearing that 10 or 15 years ago thinking, what are people talking about Sharia law? I think there's an effort to make Hindutva kind of a boogeyman word too. So explain that dynamic to me, because I think that this is why I think it's so hard to have these conversations, because most people don't realize it's a 100-year-old organization with so many people involved and many layers to it.
See, first of all, let us see how the word communal was coined. In 1932, when British saw that RSS is doing well and it has got finally its aim is for the freedom of the country, they released a circular, which circular said that government servants cannot take part in RSS activities. That law is still being exploited by opposition governments like Congress, and then teachers cannot take part in RSS, and there they called RSS a communal organization. That is the first time RSS was called communal organization. If a Christian doing something for the church or for the community is not called communal, if a Muslim working for its own community is good, is not called communal, why working for Hindu community is called communal? That's a very fundamental question you can ask. And secondly, the popularity of RSS also led to a continuous attack by Congress and leftists till recently, I would say. And I would also say that when you talk about Nazism, see, you talk of nationalism from the perspective of the West, where the nationalism term was coined somewhere up 250-300 years back. We have historical records that which says that Bharatiya nationhood or Indian nationhood started way back during the period of Vedas. Even if you go by Western concept, it is 5,000 years old. And that nationhood term has been used, Rashtriya Samiti, that is committee, the meetings, Panchayat Raj, all these have been used by our Vedas and further by, let us say, during Chandragupta Maurya, which is 4 BC. Then continuously see that word of nation has been used by us for years together. It is geocultural entity. It is not built on power. It is not built on competition to win wars with other nations and expand. If you see India in history didn't expand by killing people or colonialize them. So this thinking is very different from the nationhood the West understands. So when you talk of that, immediately the fear of Nazis, fear of nationalism comes in. So nationalism in the Western term vis-a-vis how we use nation in our culture or our history is very different. Because that is different, the misunderstanding happens. And if you go further, why are we called communal? For example, Sheikh Abdullah, who wanted special laws for Jammu Kashmir because it was a minority dominated state, said that if you do not control these communal elements vis-a-vis RSS, for full integration with India, I will not do this or that, and I will be very strong about it. So one who says I want separatism because I am a minority was called secular, and those who said we should unconditionally merge with India were called communal. So that is how the terms are run around and misused by people. So terminology is very important, but the way it is misused, we know all that. And since RSS was more into building mode and didn't believe in media, didn't believe in propaganda, it never retaliated. That also hurt it. So one of the reason I have started writing about just 20 years back is that we must tell what real RSS is, what really we are doing. So that is the urge which made me write. But RSS generally doesn't, till now, till 1990, 95, did not get into media, just releases press notes, just told what we have done, which nobody published, because there was a kind of leftist understanding that we should not give any exposure to RSS in any good work. So when there was a relief work where RSS people worked, whether flood or earthquake or whatever, the camera would move, and as soon as they saw half pint of RSS, they would just run away. So you move the camera. So that is the situation, was the situation till now.
So I guess this is the question. I mean, why was
also talked about Hindutva. So let me also explain. See, Hindutva is not anything similar to, if you say Hindutva is basically, if you say Hinduism is good, if you say Hindu Dharma is inclusive, because we don't say your way or highway, we don't say only my truth is true, yours is not. We say live and let live. We say that Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, which means one truth is said by different sages in different way. So this pluralism is inbuilt in Hindu Dharma. So you see, when a new guru comes, a new philosopher comes, he is not hanged, he is not nailed, he is respected, he is revered, and new sect is born. So Jain, Buddha, Sikh, all these people, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Arya Samaj. So these were born out of Vedic thoughts, but they thought that Hindu Dharma needs some reform, so they went ahead and created a new Sampradaya. They were never attacked, they were not violated, very differently from how other religions do that. So we cannot be exclusivists, we cannot be supremacists. When I say my religion is good or my Dharma is good, I am not saying others are bad. I am not saying you should not go to that. There is no concept of non-believer, there is no concept of kafir or of non-believer, where we say everybody will go to heaven by his or her own way. We don't say only my way will do it. So when I talked of Hindutva, basically it is essence of Hindu thought, Hindu Dharma. It is not some political philosophy for me. It is way of life for me. And I just talk that essence of Hindu Dharma, which talks of karma, which talks about rebirth, which talks about loving the nature, and all these various things, and pluralism basically.
So with an organization this large, and Hinduism, people have different forms of it that they follow. How has the RSS kind of streamlined things so there is kind of a working knowledge that can help people, guide them through life?
Like I said, we have a mission to create good people. So for that, when you say, okay, I will work for the society, I will think beyond myself, that is, I start looking at my life. I will not seek rewards for what I do for the society. So this thought continuously makes a person do something good for the nation, for the society. This leads to, as I said, many organizations, many disaster reliefs, and creating educational facilities, working in tribal areas where people go out of spending out of pocket, supporting them. So this feeling for the society, the integral way looking at whether a person is a tribal or a city dweller or a rural dweller, this is what creates that atmosphere where people are out to support the society and work for them. So that is the basic thought, and that is the reason new organizations come out and work for the society.
So the one thing that I've heard from folks that really understand Indian politics is that at this point, if you're trying to be in politics, if you probably cannot win without the RSS's blessing. Is that the case?
No, I think that is a misunderstanding, because RSS is not into day-to-day politics, electoral politics. RSS did support earlier birth of Bharatiya Jansangh, which was the fledgling party at that time, because during the ban of RSS, during the very wrong accusations about Gandhi's assassination, RSS suffered a lot. It was banned, there was satyagraha, they went to jail, lost their livelihoods, lost their lives, lost their homes. So this feeling that we have no support in the political system led many young Turks in RSS to seek a political role. By chance, at that time, Shamar Prasad Mukherjee, who was not an RSS man, founded Bharatiya Jan Sangh. So he reached out to RSS saying that you give me some volunteers because I am doing something for the nation. And he was first Hindu Mahasabha leader, so he started Bharatiya Jan Sangh. Naturally, it is different from Hindu Mahasabha. So at that time, the young people said we should do something. So the RSS chief agreed, Shri Guruji. So people like Sundar Singh Bhandari, then Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Nanaji Deshmukh, Deen Dayal Upadhyay, they were all sent to Bharatiya Jan Sangh. So that is the link between the two. So though there is no direct link, the people who feel like joining politics, they go to Bharatiya Janata Party, earlier Bharatiya Jan Sangh, because that is the only party which welcomed them. Now there are RSS people in Congress also, there are RSS people in other parties also, but earlier it was very hard for an RSS person to be welcomed to any political party. We were like political untouchables. So this led to more and more people who wanted to join politics to go to Bharatiya Jan Sangh, but it's a separate organization. For example, I don't work for Bharatiya Jan Sangh. I may support it, I am supporting it on TV also, but that's because of my ideological inclination. I criticize them also. So out of, say, let us say 100 million RSS volunteers directly involved in RSS, I would say not even 10% are in politics.
So when you say Bharatiya Jan Sangh, you mean the BJP?
Earlier avatar of BJP.
The first iteration.
See, they merged with Janata Party in 1977. Then they were thrown out believing that you are RSS members and all. So they formed a new party that was called Bharatiya Janata Party. So it's an earlier avatar.
Right. So I'm glad you brought up Gandhi's assassination, because that is a huge, if you want to call it a talking point, that people who want to be...
shirk back from answering that.
Right. Well, right. That is the huge, you see the connection. RSS, paramilitary, and the gentleman that assassinated Mahatma Gandhi was part of the RSS, and thus they make that connection. And then they also connect it to Prime Minister Modi today and the BJP. So talk about those criticisms, because again, for those of us who are trying to digest what really happened and what the truth is, it's hard for us to connect those dots, because it's very powerful rhetoric that's being used.
Well, first of all, if you look at Godse being part of RSS, he left RSS way back in 1932 because he was not satisfied with the very soft approach of RSS, to put it that way. He went to Hindu Mahasabha, left that, also started his own organization called Abhinav Bharat. And he had his own thinking, own aggression and all. So you can't blame somebody who was a part of RSS 10 years back or 20 years back for what he did later on. If you go by that logic, Jinnah was part of Congress party. And surprisingly enough, he left Congress party because of communal politics of Congress party, which supported very orthodox elements. Maulanas, Maulvi, if you look at the support of the Caliphate of Turkey in 1920 agitation in India called Khilafat movement, they were the most orthodox, most backward looking Maulanas and Maulvis. They were given support by the Congress party, and Jinnah was right, he didn't like it. So many forward-looking Congress Muslim people left Congress. So Jinnah was part of that Congress. That means Congress is responsible for partition of India, killing of millions of Hindus and Muslims, and also crores of people were uprooted. That logic doesn't work. If that doesn't work for Jinnah, it doesn't work for Guru Godse also. It works for both. Secondly, see, when the assassination of Gandhiji took place, a week before that, there was a man called Madanlal Pahwa, a refugee from Pakistan, very upset because he had lost his family and all. And at that time, Gandhiji went for a fast to support Pakistan's, demand for money and resources. So he attacked Gandhiji. Gandhiji was saved, and he told there is a conspiracy. Why there was no support to security around Congress? They say Gandhiji didn't like it, but I mean there is something called Mufti police, which basically doesn't come in uniforms. So the threat was already there. Prediction was already there by the man. Then why government didn't work, to save them? Gandhiji was lying, bleeding 20 minutes, in the room behind where it incident happened. He was not taken to hospital. Why is not taken to hospital? There was no post-mortem. And not only that, so having done all this, who is the biggest loser of this entire game? RSS, Hindutva. Because that put back RSS Hindutva at least by 30 years. Who benefited? Nehru and Congress, because they encashed this incident to ban RSS, to create bogey around Hindutva, create bogey that Hindus are communal, Hindus are violent, till today. So this is a very wrong misrepresentation. And if you go further, neither the police, nor the courts, nor the accused or the witnesses ever named RSS. So how can you name RSS when it is not named by anybody in the trial? 1 month after the assassination of Gandhi, there was a police CID report which said RSS has no role at all. Still the charade continue. So it is purely political. It has no logical foundation for what has been accused about RSS. Some people say ideology of RSS. Well, then you have a Communist Party which talks about dividing India into 18 nations. Way back in 1946, they petitioned the British government. Not only that, they rebelled with armed rebellion in southern part of India in Andhra Pradesh, and they were crushed with military force in 1951. So there are so many parts of history which have been misrepresented or specifically used to target RSS. RSS is never part of the violence. In fact, in their constitution they clearly say anybody who takes part in violence or supports violence will be thrown out of RSS.
Well, that continues to be used today as a way to stigmatize association with the RSS.
There are many people facing defamation case for that only, including Rahul Gandhi. And he avoids the courts, somehow trying to avoid the courts, but neither apologizing. So I am aware of at least half a dozen cases who have accused RSS of this case, because there is no material evidence at all, no evidence even indirectly framing RSS for this assassination.
So what is RSS doing today? How has it evolved from the very beginning, obviously 100 years as an organization? And can you analogize what the RSS is in India to something in the United States, so we have maybe a better understanding of the magnitude and what, if there's something that's common between the US and India in that regard?
I mean, I don't see much parallels, honestly speaking, because US has its own culture. It is a Christian country for all it means, and it is a good thing that they have certain religion they follow. And now the only fear that I have, whether it's India or America, is the fear of leftism taking over the mind space of people, which is actually destroying the family system, which is a linchpin of any society, any civilization. And that is where Trump has reacted now. And in India, RSS of course opposes these kind of ideologies, which doesn't allow a cultural infusion where you can say, okay, because of if you see, the family is a very important unit. It creates affection, it creates very emotional bonding, it creates emotional security. Why there are more mental cases, or I would not use mental case, I would say cases of depression, etc. in the society where their families are broken, and why single child children see so many problems even in USA. It is because family system has been breaking down. So for us it's very important. In fact, the five major points to work in RSS today are: one is family, where we see that they have their values, they love their culture, they do their religious duties, etc. So there is a sense of security within and that is which creates a happy society. Then we talk of ecology, because ecology or climate change is not responsibility of just governments. So we say at your personal level, avoid wastage, plant trees, and avoid any kind of wastage, because ultimately nature, we are part of the nature. We don't see that we must save nature to exploit it more. We say because nature, we are part of the nature. It is an integral approach of Hindu Dharma that we are all linked to each other, we are all part of each other. So that is the reason we worship nature. We don't worship because it's a superstition, we worship it because we cannot survive without nature. So that thought, we have said that we must save ecology, avoid plastic. Then there is also importance of working for the rural development, self-reliant communities. Then we talk about civic sense, because as we know, everybody in the world knows, India is very famous for civic sense, where we break rules very easily, we are not disciplined. So that is also one of the stresses, that we as citizens must be disciplined, civilized, follow law, so the society can be in a better place to live. So these are some of the things we are saying, that everybody in the society, we talk of social harmony, that we must avoid every kind of casteism, we must avoid any kind of discrimination. So these are some of the points on which RSS is working now in its 100th year. And this is the idea. So we have a harmonious society, we have a disciplined society, we have a society which works towards its own self-reliance and also works in a very nice atmosphere where everybody is together.
Are there offshoots to the RSS here in the United States or in other parts of the world?
No, RSS has no presence outside Bharat, and there are some organizations where people came from India with RSS background, and they started some organizations in various countries. not just USA, but they are local organizations. They have their own constitution, which is as per the local national rules, and they do take inspiration, but they are not part of RSS at all because they are local organizations. Somebody comes to me from India and says, I want certain kind of things to be taken to, yes, I'll help. He will say, give me some books, I will help the person. Similarly, when I come here, some Swayamsevak or some HSS person wants to support me, I'll happily do that, take the support. So that is this kind of brotherly relation, but they are independent organizations.
Tell me about the caste dynamics in India today versus, say, 100 years ago, because this is being debated hotly in the United States. We had a caste discrimination law that was passed in California, then vetoed by the governor. There's actually a law in the books in Seattle. A few other cities are implementing things, and universities as well. So it's become a very hot button issue. It did affect, I believe, the 2024 election to some degree. It was one small factor in moving Indian Americans more to the right. This was a bloc that was voting almost 80% back in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. But Kamala Harris, the first Indian American presidential candidate, got far less support than Hillary Clinton or even Joe Biden did in the previous election. And these caste dynamics come into play where we have people saying Indian Americans are participating in some of these dynamics that have taken place in South Asia historically. So tell me where we are in terms of that dynamic and what you see in the U.S. with some of these discussions that are taking place.
See, we are the only society, Hindu society, which continuously reforms itself. And the issue of caste, issue of discrimination began during the invasion time, when because of various historical reasons, including Mughals trying to make those fighters into scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, stamping them as such, and then because of the, I would say, ossification of the society for long slavery, these practices became very bad and they affected certain section of the community, and we all criticize it, we all oppose it, and we are the only society where a lot of seers, a lot of leaders have continuously criticized this practice. And in fact, we have laws which are very strong laws. If you discriminate against somebody on caste, the person goes to jail. And not only so, we have this clear-cut policy to let this go, abolish it, including RSS, where RSS chief way back in 71 and then later in about 75 or 70 said, if untouchability is not bad, there is nothing bad in word, like quoting Martin Luther King, and it must be thrown out lock, stock and barrel. That is the view of RSS. It doesn't have any discrimination within its organization, and none of its organizations on basis of caste. We don't even ask the caste. I don't know the host where I'm sitting, which caste he belongs to, neither my friend who brought me here. So that being so, to keep, and there are reservations for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes in the constitution, which are implemented very forcefully. So to blame that particular thing map this onto Indians outside Bharat, I think it's a very, I would say it's just vicious kind of approach, because I don't think in a merit-based IT industry, for example, somebody would hire somebody just because the person happens to be a certain caste. After all, the person who hired the person has to deliver results. So whether the person is caste A or B, and I think people who come here don't come to USA based on caste.
Well, let's start with, so there is active criticism that caste discrimination continues to exist in India and South Asia, and a lot of people have come from these areas and have brought that to the United States. What do you have to say about that criticism?
As I explained to you, that we are the only society which has fought against any kind of discrimination in the society. We have reformed ourselves continuously, even against caste system. For hundreds of years, our saints and our gurus have fought against it. And not only that, government has a very strong law against untouchability or scheduled caste discrimination, and very strict punishments to that. There are reservations for people. So to say that there is still discrimination, as I said, there has been a period of long slavery when the community got ossified to protect itself. It went inwards, and during that time when women were afraid to go out, and when men were in fact discriminated, those who fought against Mughals, and those are the people who were converted to the lower caste, so-called lower caste, etc. So, but still, right from the earlier days, there is continuous reform movement, whether it's RSS everywhere, or Arya Samaj, and so many other people I can talk about, and laws also. To say that this only happens in India, every society has some kind of caste system or some kind of classification or class of people. In UK, you had lords, you had commons, you had smiths, and you had other people. In Portuguese, the casta is actually coming from Portuguese. We didn't have caste, we had communities. So community is somebody specialized in a particular skill, somebody specialized in another skill, and they work together. In fact, in India, the producers of excellent manufacturing who did were Shudras, what is called today scheduled caste. If you go to the schools of those time, 18th century also, we had 70% so-called SC, ST, OBCs in the schools, even in Tamil Nadu. So these are these myths were created by colonizers, and we just perpetuate them. So people today are talking of those, those language of British and language of Portuguese are basically copy pasting those ideas and trying to exploit it for their own political gains. And if you look at Communist Party in India, they didn't have a scheduled caste in their Politburo for last 90 years. They didn't have a woman in their Politburo for 90 years. And one woman who came was actually wife of the General Secretary. So this issue is a very serious issue with the community which has faced 800 years of enslavement, colonial slavery, to come out of which will take some time. But to put that on to the US community also is, I think, very poor thinking. As I noted that those who came to India from India were not given visa by US based on Brahmin or Kshatriya or scheduled caste. They were given the visas based on their skills. In my own office, I have hired people from Muslims, from Christians, my managers are Christians. I have hired people without any asking of caste. I have taken them from the remotest part, even if they don't know English. So this is unnecessary myth created to actually create a Hindu phobia, to create hate for Hindus. As I said, there is caste system in Christians also in India. 13 churches in Kerala who don't visit each other. I talked about many times. I talk about Goa, where the bishop of a particular church was always an ex-Brahmin. Only recently they didn't find any ex-Brahmin, so they had to have another person. In Muslims, there are 72 kind of communities. And there are larger communities like Ashraf and Ajlafs. Ajlaf means the poor, oppressed, also called Pasmanda, and there is higher caste Muslim who don't allow them to rise anywhere. All the political advantage is taken by the Ashrafs, the high caste Muslims, high born Muslims, not by the lower caste. So this is very unfortunate situation, but to blame it on one community, on one particular religious group is just politics.
When do you think caste will be eradicated in India? Do you think that's possible?
See, caste is a kind of, as far as I am concerned in modern India, caste is just a label. It doesn't affect my behavior. Somebody can be Brahmin, some can be Kshatriya, because by actually, see, we have Varna and we have caste. They are two different terms. Varna is based on your nature. So if I am doing some knowledge work, I am a Brahmin. If I am fighting the wars, I am Kshatriya. If I am doing business, I am a Vaishya or Baniya. And I am doing manufacturing, then I am a Shudra or scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. In terms of caste, these are community labels which came up from their various grouping from various places, and what they did, they were not supposed to be creating any discrimination, but over a period of time, as I explained, because of colonial mindset, because of going inert during those periods when they just wanted to save their existence, there are certain practices which were brought in, and they were connoted as very bad rituals. For example, even myself, if I go to a washroom, I must wash my hands. I will not be allowed entry into the kitchen if I have not washed my hands or my feet in my own home. Now, this was a normal hygienic practice. It became a caste-based, discrimination, which was bad. Now we are overcoming that, and sooner or later that will disappear. But people who keep on labeling caste don't want it to die, because that is a political bread and butter. For me as an RSS person, as I said, we don't even ask somebody's caste. If I don't ask somebody's caste, I am not discriminating against anybody, which was checked by Ambedkar, which was checked by Mahatma Gandhi. They also went to their camps and saw there is no discrimination. So the only solution is you don't discriminate, you don't allow that to become a part of your any activism or your behavior in the society, then it's okay. Unfortunately, people who want to eradicate caste actually want to perpetuate caste, because that is their political capital.
Talk to me about Prime Minister Modi. I think he's been one of the more interesting political figures, certainly of my lifetime. He's catalyzed the country. The people who might be critical of him can say all kinds of things, but there's no question, at least from our purview here in the diaspora, in the last decade, he's made an unbelievable effort to connect the diaspora with India coming here physically himself multiple times, but also having ministers, having leadership coming here and engaging with the diaspora at a level that we've never seen before. So tell me about his legacy, because, you know, as I was discussing the other day when I was at the Harvard India conference, you know, he did not have any kind of privilege, it seems, as a child. Very, very humble roots. Was in the RSS. Certainly has, I would imagine, still very strong ties with the leaders there. So talk about the impact that he's made. And is that part of the reason the RSS gets dinged by so many folks that are critical of the Indian government, because they think Modi has been in particular a very strong leader advocating for his nation?
See, the very fact that people like Modi and other leaders from very roots, very humble beginnings can rise to the top shows that RSS training is something which goes beyond casteism, you know, narrow-minded Hindu feeling and all that. So he is an example of that. And having brought in that particular environment, he feels very strongly for the poor, for the deprived. So all his efforts have been to go to the last man at the earliest, because the ideologue of BJP, Deendayal Upadhyay, had wrote a thesis called Integral Humanism, where he said the benefit of any development must go to the last person in the queue. That is called Antyodaya, last person in the queue. And if you look at his policies, he has been trying to get the benefits to the lowest rung of the society, whether it's water to the home, whether it's gas, cooking gas, whether it's homes, whether it's toilets. To imagine that no leader ever thought that toilet is a prime requirement of a poorest of poorest person shows his sensitivity, and he was ready to go for that. So this connect with the people at the lowest rung of the society in every possible way and working for them is the strength that he has gained, which other leaders till he came didn't worry about. As far as people of India and region are concerned, till Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the first BJP Prime Minister, came, there was no sense of duty or sense of I would say affection for Indians outside Bharat. They thought they have gone there for their own purpose, they are making money and all. But in case of BJP, which is influenced by RSS, they believe that these people are assets for the society where they work and also assets for Bharat as ambassadors of Bharat, because they represent India. If my friend here in USA doesn't work well, it reflects on India. So, and that is where this upbringing comes in. With that feeling, there is a Ministry of NRI for the first time, Minister for PIO at the time of Vajpayee, that continued. And what Modi is trying to illustrate with his meetings with the NRIs and PIOs is that here is a community, huge community, which works for the society where they live. They own the society where they live and enrich the society. They are not they are not lawbreakers. They are not violators of any kind of law, nor are they demanding special rights. So these are the people who are assets to any society. And that sizable number, when somebody from USA politics sees, then he starts respecting that community. So this change of view about the Indian community in overseas countries is what Modi has brought to the table, which earlier, I meet people in US when I come here who are from India and now citizens of USA. They said we never felt this kind of pride and sense of respect from local people that we have now. That's his achievement. And of course, his biggest achievement is, apart from going to the supporting economically the weakest people in the society, but also the way he's totally changed the vision of Indians. That sense of ambition that India can be one of the greatest countries, if we can do it, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's industry, whether it's defense. We had the poorest quality of import policy where nearly every equipment in defense came from outside. Now we indigenize major part of production except very high-end products, and they have started exporting also. So this sense of pride in the nation, and we can deliver, we can do what I want to do, whether it's space, whether it's defense, whether it's manufacturing. For example, semiconductor came to India only because of Modi ji's effort. So this is where we feel a total change, the view as we look at ourselves and look at our place in the world global community.
Finally, I've had conversations, again, talking to different people about aspects of Indian society that don't get discussed much. Tell me about the role of women in the RSS and in Indian society. In America, you talked about families earlier. We do have a lot of single-parent families. We do have a lot of single people, men and women, the construct of family has changed. We have a lot of working people. You almost can't survive in this country without two incomes. Tell me how this applies to India, because obviously you've had this traditional society, things are changing. Tell me about the role of women in the RSS and in the Indian society at large.
See, the same Indian people who come here, their husband-wives work. I'm sitting in a home where the wife is a director of a division of a company. Husband is also in a very high position, and they're running the family also beautifully. And this is same situation in India also. I'll give one example. Modi ji trained, inspired women to get trained to operate drones. So pesticides, etc., which are sprayed on the farm and farms, they are being driven by women. They are called drone didis or drone sisters. This is the change. Secondly, similarly, as the situation changes in India, more and more women are working. More and men and women are sharing their jobs in the family, and that's true with my family, every other family. So that's not an issue. We have harmonious relations. So similarly, wherever we are, whichever the form of the family, that affection and bonding, if stays, everybody can work and cooperate together. That's what is happening. As far as RSS is concerned, by tradition for early years, when there was no possibility of physically playing together, physical games, there was a women wing of RSS called Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which is running parallel to RSS and has got lakhs of women in that, hundreds of thousands. And we have RSS, inspired organizations where women play a huge role, whether it's Vishnu Parishad, whether it's Ekal Vidyalaya, whether it's Vidyarthi Parishad. We have full-timer women who give the full time to organization in all these organizations. So as the scenario changes, we have more and more women taking part in the RSS activities, and it will keep on changing, and the role of women will keep on increasing. At the same time, like here you see the Indians, they also take care of the family. It is not that, since I am a, great working woman, now you take care of the family or I'll walk off. It doesn't happen that way, because we believe men and women are complementary. They are not competing. That is the basic difference between the way you look at women and men in West, the way we look at men and women in India, that we are complementary. That is the whole idea of Ardhanarishwar, where you say half man, half woman God, model of Shiva, Murti of Shivji. So we believe that they are complementary, and they work together and complete what other cannot do. That is how they are living harmoniously.
Well, this was just a thumbnail sketch of the RSS over 100 years. It's hard to get into every layer, but I'm really appreciative you broke this down to a large degree for us, and I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ravi.
Dr. Ratan Sharda, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.